Good day and welcome to this first segment of another A Week at the Plot. And very unusually, it's a Wednesday first segment. I've been really busy at my desk the past couple of days, mopping things up PR wise for the event that we had on Saturday in Dunsfold. More about that in Sunday chat. And then just sort of getting on with other things. And it's about, I think, about 3:30 now on Wednesday afternoon. And I've come down just to survey the realm, survey the domain of the plot. And actually, we were talking in the last segment, in the Sunday segment of last week, we were talking about the cuttings that I was taking. So the raspberry cuttings and planting up that golden raspberry root, the plant with the root on it. What I thought is that I needed to check out the raspberries in the raspberry bed that we've got here, because I noticed when I was doing that segment that there was some growth where I hadn't expected growth in that bed. And also what Jay of Hilltop Farm asked me is whether the hormone rooting powder is actually, worth it or not. Is it pointless or is it good? Well, I thought, because I saw this on Sunday, I thought today, as the first segment, we'd look at the cuttings that we took of the thornless Blackberry. Must be about 2 months ago, something like that. And it was part of our series of highly scientific experiments, because we took the cuttings, we took 16 cuttings in all. We put them into 3 separate pots, so 4 in each, not 16 cuttings, 12 cuttings, not 16, 12 cuttings, 4 in each pot. I couldn't do my maths. And in one pot, we used hormone rooting powder as a dipper for the end of the tips. In another pot, we used honey, runny honey. And in another pot, we just stuck the tips directly into the compost without any honey, without any rooting powder. And I thought it would be worthwhile looking back at those today to see how they're doing, because I think there is a surprise in there. Yeah, I think there's a surprise. Will the surprise be the honey? Will the surprise be the hormone rooting powder? Or will the surprise be using nothing at all? We shall see. Let me first of all just show you the raspberries, the summer fruiting raspberries in our soft fruit bed, which, even though I thought they were dead and they were coming to nothing, they have actually started growing. In here I put a row of summer fruiting raspberries. We've got these autumn fruiting raspberries at the back over here, but I put 3 summer rooting raspberries in, and I thought that they had died back and died off, in fact. But look, the root was clearly still alive. So this is a summer fruiting raspberry. There's nothing around this one here, but I'm just going to leave it in. But over here, can you see a bit of green there? That's from one that I put in there, and there's also another bit of green there, because of course this could be a root that has gone underground and formed a new plant over there. So in terms of these plants that we planted, we do actually definitely have 3 summer fruiting raspberries, but this middle one, this one here, we'll have to wait and see. And in fact, just here, this is my josterberry, which is at rather a jaunty angle. Let's see if I can just show you more clearly. So you can see the josterberry, it's in the ground here, and then it bends. Look how it's bending all the way across the bed to here. So I think I'm going to use this. I'm going to straighten it up, but use all this bit for josterberry cuttings. Yeah, but that will be another day. These are our 3 pots of cuttings from a thornless blackberry from a fellow plot holder's plot. In this one here, you can see there's growth here, here, down here. You might not be able to see that. There's a bit there. There's a little bit of growth up here. This leaf has stayed clean and green as well. There's a little bit of growth down here, and there's a bit of growth here. In the middle, we've got some growth up here. This one is dead. That can go. It's dried up, as you can see. Is there some... That one is dead. No, look, there's a little bit of growth down there. Leave that one in. A little bit of growth there, but not a huge amount. And then right over here on the end, we've got some growth here and at the back. This one has got a tiny bit of growth at the back. There's a bit of growth here, and I think you can just see the bit of growth here as well. For me, this one is the best looking so far. Then this one, then this one in the middle. So which is which? Which of these was done with hormone rooting powder? Which was done with honey? And which was done simply by just sticking the cutting into the compost? Well, this one here, which I think is the worst, is the one that we did with honey. So people think it acts as people say it acts as an antibacterial. They say it acts as an invigorator for cuttings. But in our trial, our highly scientific experiment, these are performing the worst so far. Then over here, we have the cuttings that just went in without any rooting powder or without any honey. And they seem a bit sluggish, but actually there's growth on all of them. But without any doubt in my mind, this is the best, with the hormone rooting powder used. So the tip, which is below the soil, was in hormone rooting. It was dipped in hormone rooting powder and then pushed down like we did last week with the raspberry cuttings into the corner and then firmed in. I'm finding that these are maybe a little loose. I don't think they've generated much root, if any root at the moment, but certainly this is a pot which is far more alive in terms of each of its cuttings than the other two. But it's fair to say that this one here is not too far behind, though if I actually look at the quality of the cuttings still, we've still got green. Nothing has died back at the tips. It's dried off, but nothing's died back at the tips here, where here this has definitely died back. You can see this one down here has died back at the tip. This one and this one seem similar to the one over here. So we've definitely lost one of those cuttings from the honey. We've got all of the cuttings of the hormone rooting powder. We've got all of the cuttings of the ones that were just stuck straight in the soil. Let's have a look at the lavender cuttings that I took, which you can just see here. Let me move these out of the way. There we are. We've got 5 pots of cuttings, being a bit bleached out in this really bright sun. This pot of cuttings here, all doing really well. That one all doing well. So I think we'll have 8 cuttings of lavender there. There's one in the middle here that's definitely dead. That can go. I think that one at the back, yeah, that's not doing it either. This one has got growth on it. This one at the front here is not doing it either. But yeah, so of the 20 cuttings of lavender we took, 21 cuttings of lavender we have 18 that look as though they're going to work. So, you know, propagation from cuttings is really, you know, it's such great value. It really is. I mean, if we were popping to Lidl to buy these, A, they wouldn't have been grown and cultivated and propagated by ourselves. And B, you'd be paying, I don't know, between £3 and £5 for maybe 6 plants. So actually, if you want your garden to be full of lavender or rosemary, or, you know, most herbs, as you've seen here, the blackberry, you know, do cuttings. It's so cost effective. So yeah, really happy, really happy with those cuttings. It has been gloriously sunny whilst I've been down here for about the last 3/4 of an hour. But you can see now the sun is really dipping down. There's some sun flare up here. But what you can also see is the thickening mist. This is sort of coming off the River Brent and comes onto the lower end of the plot here, or the site here rather. Yeah, it's rather lovely though. So that's it for today. What was the surprise? The surprise for me was the fact that the honey cuttings of those thornless blackberries clearly seem to be the worst at this stage. The ones with the hormone rooting powder, I understood that they would be the best, or I thought they would be the best, and they certainly seem to be. But the ones without any rooting powder or honey are not too far behind the ones with rooting powder, though I think I will continue to use rooting powder if I do have it. Obviously, we looked at the raspberries down here as well, and I was quite surprised. It's funny, you know, you can come down here every day or every other day and look at things, and then something that you might have seen for a number of weeks just sort of hits you in the face. So I'm really pleased that the summer fruiting raspberries are starting to grow as well. One thing we will be doing, most probably this week, we might as well continue the raspberry theme a bit this week, is cutting down our autumn fruiting raspberries. But we will do that later in the week. So as that sun goes down, and you can see the mist over here now, can you see here? Gosh, it's gorgeous. Yeah, with the sun going down, I'm going to say goodbye for this segment of A Week at the Plot, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye. Good day. As you can see, the sun is dipping down again behind the tree line. I've been thinking about those broad beans in the poly, and as you saw, they've got roots coming out the bottom, which we saw a couple of weeks ago. In fact, gosh, 2 weeks ago almost, when Vivi was here. And I kept on meaning to put them on bricks or something like that, but what I thought of this morning was to put compost into the base to put those roots so that they sit on top of that compost, and then the roots can go down into that compost. I think that's the best thing to do, because I can't see them going out till, well, for another, I would have thought 6 weeks or maybe even longer. So I thought that was a good idea. And certainly there's room above the heads of the shoots, or between the heads of the shoots and the top of the cover, to not create any impact as the broad beans grow rather slowly at the moment. It is midwinter, so we should expect them to be growing slowly. But yeah, that's all I'm doing down here today. I left home about an hour and a half ago, and I got here about 15 minutes ago. That's how many people I met coming down. But you know what? That's part of it, isn't it? That's part of the joy. We're so lucky to have an allotment just 5 minutes walk away. I know there are those, like at Vivi's, where they have the allotment at the back of their garden, and that's fantastic. But I'm really glad we can walk to our allotment and meet people on the way. It really is lovely. And I met the chair of the community gardens, so we had a good half an hour chatting as well, so that was lovely. Right, let me just spin you over to those brassicas, because they look rather lovely in this light. Rather loving that light on that netting. Parts are grey, parts are silvery grey, parts are almost see-through, parts are very pale, creamy yellow. Lovely, lovely. And actually it's been a lovely day weather-wise again today. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to get to the plot a bit earlier and do what I intended to do today. Fingers crossed. Right, we'll leave it there. See you very soon. Bye. Good day. Very misty day, as you can see. We've got a work party today, which will go on till about 2 o'clock. I've just come down to get the thermal, or the thermos, the pump thermos, which holds about 3 litres of water, 4 litres of water I think, so that we can have coffees and teas. I'll pop to the shop and get a few biscuits. It's only 1 degree at the moment, but actually it doesn't feel too bad. I've got thermals on 2 layers plus a fleece. It does look rather lovely though. Whether I'll get down later or not, I'm not sure. Oh, and in front of that greenhouse that you can see just there, that's where the thornless blackberry cuttings I took were from. So in front of that greenhouse you can just see a metal frame with some scaff on it, and yeah, the plot holder has tied that in over the last couple of weeks, and that's the thornless blackberry from which I got the cuttings. Yeah, very quiet this morning. I think there is somebody else here though, because I can hear
a bit of knocking going on. When I say knocking, I mean like with a hammer rather than anything else. Along by the tree line of the poplars over there. Can you see those ghosted poplars? Look at that. Lovely. But when I was walking along the path, I'm sure I heard a woodpecker. I'll see if I can I'll see if it comes out on this video, because if it does, that's the first woodpecker I'll have heard of the year. There's magpie cawing, there's a wood pigeon, obviously various other birds tweeting. But yeah, so lovely and still. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. Our working party starts at 10. So I'm going to pick up the thermos, take it home to fill it up. And I think I'll say goodbye and see you again tomorrow. Yeah, I think so. We'll see. I'll say bye and see you tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll pick it up later. Bye.
Good day and good morning, in fact, because it's about 9:30. Similar day to yesterday, though when I looked out first thing this morning it looked clearer, but as the sun has come up, even though you can't see the sun, the mist has also become thicker, but completely workable as well. So you can see what you're doing, which is great. There's no pea super as such. Yesterday was a really busy day for the working party. I say a busy day, it was actually 3 hours, but we got quite a bit done, moving quite a lot of the prunings and the brush from the poplars where the tree men came and did the work. What was that, 4-6 weeks ago, something like that? Maybe even longer. So we sorted quite a lot of that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to go and show you 2 things that we have done with the prunings and the brush, which is part of the prunings of the trees around the plot. Let's go into the paddock area and I can show you a stack of wood. A stack of wood. These are branches mainly from the poplar, and they're sort of quite chunky. They're not something that would go through a sort of normal shredder. They're just sort of too big. And what we're doing is we have put these onto pallets. So we've put pallets down at the bottom, and then we've stacked them that way, and then some that way, and then another layer that way, and then a top layer this way. And these are just going to be left here so that if people want to take them away for their wood burners, they can, or if they want to take them away to use as log piles at other green spaces and community areas around us, they can do that as well. So yeah, these were underneath the poplar line, which you've seen before, which is sort of right over here, and they're just going to remain here. We are going to be putting raised beds into this area for starter plots in the coming months, so these will likely move at some point if they do not get taken. But for those people who are still burning wood, this is a good resource for them to have. And for those people who want to put log piles into their green spaces, it's great that we have this, that people can ask us and they can take logs away. Let's go and have a look at where we started the dead hedge. We're now at the top end of the site, and down here, even though we get very few people down there this way, there is sort of access down here. So we are putting in a dead hedge here to better secure the site, which is here.
So what we have done is we've put in poles. You can see these are from ones from the poplars that were cut down. We've put in poles, and then on the far side we've put in, can you see there, another line of poles right up to here, incorporating this ivy. And then what we've started doing is laying along here, and we're laying things this way rather than that way, if you like. We're laying it in the line of the dead hedge that we want. Brush and larger pieces of prunings that have come off the poplars. And then we will build this dead hedge up over time. And you can see that these posts, which have been banged into the ground, so we put a point on the end and then bang these posts into the ground. Over time, this dead hedge will build up. And also, as it builds up, it will also over time decompose, so it will fall down a little bit, and we can top it up with further prunings, and it will become effectively a real dead hedge, but it will become a fantastic live hedge for wildlife. So that is what we're doing here. And then we're looking at planting along this edge as well, maybe some daffodils and other spring bulbs and things along here. So we will keep this area open so that we can keep on topping up this dead hedge. And what we've done is sort of try to weave some of the branches. You can see this branch here is coming in front of this post and then behind that post. Same down here, this one's in front and then it weaves behind, because by doing that we stabilize these vertical posts as time goes on. Of course they will eventually rot, these will rot away, but by that time hopefully the dead hedge will be at such a height that it will have decent stability across the width. And between here, the dead hedge is most probably about 1.5 meters here. It's slightly narrower between the posts up here. You can't see, I think, yeah, you can you see that post? No, you can't see a post just off the edge here, but it's slightly narrower here. But it doesn't really matter as long as we're putting any brush, which is the sort of soft bits, and any harder prunings this way along this dead hedge, it will be absolutely fine. And of course is a completely natural way of building a hedge. Yeah, so it will be interesting to see this develop over time, though of course we are likely to not be here to see it develop over time, but I'll certainly see it develop over the coming 6 months or so, maybe into next year. Who knows when we will move house or win the lottery. Right, let's get back to the plot. Before we get back to the plot, I just thought I'd show you this. I mentioned brush before. So these bits that we're using to add some structure between the poles, between these poles, these are obviously smaller branches, so they're generally smaller than the big trunks that we saw a few minutes ago in the paddock. But this in the middle here is the brush, and the reason that it's sort of called brush, I think, is obviously as a tree grows, you get all the twigs and little branches coming off, and it sort of creates a brush. So when I say about infilling with brush, this is the area that will be having the brush, and the brush is all these sort of little bits. These small branches, but still quite substantive branches, are what will give structure and hold our edging in, being woven where we can between the vertical poles. So yeah, I thought it was worth just letting you know that. I think we're going to leave it there for this week's A Week at the Plot. It's been such a mixed bag of weather this week. I mean, now of course it's grey, it's overcast, it's misty, and then at the beginning of the week we had lots of sun and lots of blue sky.
But you know what? That's very much what the weather is in the UK, in our part of the UK, certainly at this time of year. It's also still quite mild, even though it's sitting at the moment just at 2 degrees. It doesn't feel like 2 degrees because that cold wind isn't here. It's very, very still. So we don't have a biting wind coming in, which is bringing wind chill in and therefore taking the temperature or the feel of the temperature right down. So even though it's only a couple of degrees, it's not, yeah, it feels quite mild. I mean, I've still got several layers on, you know. I'm not saying that I'm in my you know, t-shirt or anything, but yeah. I think an interesting week for me this week in a number of ways, but I was so pleased to get so much done at the work party yesterday. In fact, we all were. So it was a really, really good day. Talking about it being mild, I'm just about to carry on doing some pottering. When I moved the wheelbarrow yesterday, there were slugs underneath the wheelbarrow. I mean, you know, we're not having that cold snap at the moment at the right time to kill off and reduce the slugs and snails that are on the plot over the winter. You know, they're laying their eggs, they're on the plot. A really good cold snap around sort of January, February is really good because it reduces the infestation of slugs and snails and therefore their activity of eating things over the spring and summer months. But what I'm noticing is that there's still quite a lot of slug and snail damage going on. And boy, do they love Vivi's broad beans. Honestly. But yeah, anyway, we will leave it there. And I'll see you again next week for further segments of A Week at the Plot. See you then. Bye.